The enigma beyond the stars. The stars shimmered against the endless void as Dr. Ilara Voss adjusted the massive radio telescope array at Horizon Station. Positioned on the far side of the Moon, Earth's first deep space monitoring outpost offered humanity's clearest view into the cosmos, free from the electromagnetic noise of civilization. Ilara had dedicated 15 years to this facility, choosing isolation among the stars over the comfort of Earth. Tonight, however, would transform her sacrifice into humanity's greatest discovery. Array calibration complete, Dr. Voss announced Kai Chen, her young assistant whose brilliance had earned him a spot on the station despite his age. All systems show optimal performance. Ilara nodded, her eyes never leaving the data streams flowing across her screens. For 3 weeks, she had detected anomalies in the background radiation from HD 219,134, a star system 47 light-years from Earth. The patterns defied natural explanation, appearing too structured, too intentional. "Running the new algorithm now," she said, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Years of scientific discipline had taught her to temper hope with skepticism. "Let's see if we can filter out the cosmic noise." The station fell silent except for the soft hum of computers. 5 other scientists watched intently as the program worked through billions of calculations, searching for coherence within chaos. Then suddenly, the screens changed. "My God," whispered Dr. Marcel Okoro, the station's astrophysicist. "That's not random." The display showed a clear pattern emerging from the background noise, a repeating sequence of mathematical constants arranged in what could only be a deliberate structure. Ilara felt her heart pound against her ribs. After centuries of searching the stars, humanity had finally found what it had always questioned. We are not alone. Within hours, the discovery spread across Earth. The signal, as it quickly became known, was verified by observatories worldwide. International teams of mathematicians, linguists, and physicists assembled to decode its meaning. The United Nations established the Interstellar Communication Initiative, pulling together the greatest minds from every nation, regardless of political differences. 3 months passed as humanity struggled to understand. Then, without warning, the signal changed. The mathematical sequence shifted, becoming more complex, incorporating elements from Earth's own transmissions. It was responding to them. "It's not just sending information," Ilara explained to the Emergency Security Council during her return to Earth. Her normally composed demeanor showed cracks of exhaustion and excitement. "It's engaging in dialogue. The pattern incorporated prime number sequences we transmitted 6 weeks ago. Whatever intelligence created this signal, it's actively communicating with us." World leaders shifted uncomfortably in their seats. What had begun as scientific curiosity now carried political implications. First contact would reshape humanity's place in the universe. "And you believe the new patterns contain instructions?" asked the Secretary General, her expression unreadable. Ilara nodded. "Yes, our team has decoded what appears to be specifications for a device. The mathematics is beyond our current understanding, but the engineering principles are translatable." The room erupted into heated debate. Some nations insisted on immediate construction of the device, seeing opportunity for technological advancement. Others urged caution, fearing potential threats. Humanity's oldest question had been answered, but now a more pressing one took its place. Should we respond? While politicians debated, Ilara returned to Horizon Station with unofficial support from a coalition of scientific institutions. The signal continued its transmission, growing more sophisticated with each passing day. Its patterns began showing elements that resembled quantum entanglement theories, suggesting technology centuries beyond human capability. "They're teaching us," Ilara told her team as they secretly began constructing the device according to the signal's specifications. Components were smuggled to the station disguised as equipment upgrades. "These aren't just instructions, they're lessons. Building this device is simultaneously teaching us principles of physics we haven't discovered yet." The device took shape gradually, a spherical chamber surrounded by concentric rings of an alloy created using the transmitted formula. Inside, precisely arranged crystals would generate fields that, according to the instructions, would create a stable connection across vast distances. "It's essentially a quantum communicator," explained Kai as he carefully calibrated the crystalline structure. Despite being the youngest team member, his intuitive understanding of the signal's mathematics made him invaluable. But instead of transmitting information through conventional means, it creates a direct link between 2 points in spacetime. 90 days after beginning construction, as Earth's government still argued over official responses, Ilara's team completed the device. The 7 scientists gathered around it in Horizon Station's main laboratory, both terrified and exhilarated by what they had created. "Are we really doing this?" asked Dr. Sophia Rice, the team's quantum physicist. "Activating an alien device without oversight." Marcel smiled thinly. "Would you rather wait for bureaucrats to decide? This could be humanity's defining moment." Ilara placed her hand on the activation panel, designed according to the signal's precise instructions. "Science has always required courage. If this is first contact, then I believe it should happen between those seeking knowledge, not advantage." She looked at each team member. "Are we in agreement?" Each scientist nodded solemnly, understanding the historical weight of this moment. With steady fingers, Ilara initiated the activation sequence. The device hummed to life, the crystalline core beginning to glow with soft blue light. The concentric rings started to rotate around it, each moving in opposite directions to its neighbors. The hum deepened, resonating through the station and seemingly through the bodies of everyone present. The central sphere now pulsed with energy, creating distortions in the air around it. "Quantum field stabilizing," reported Kai, monitoring the readouts. "Whatever this is, it's working exactly as the instructions predicted." The light from the core suddenly expanded, filling the laboratory with a gentle azure glow. The air itself seemed to thicken. And then, in the center of the room, a presence formed. Not physical, not quite holographic, but undeniably there, a swirling pattern of light and energy that moved with purpose. When it spoke, they heard no sound. Instead, the words formed directly in their minds, crystal clear and somehow conveying emotions beyond human language. "We have waited. You have answered. We observe." Ilara stepped forward, her scientific training battling with overwhelming awe. "Who are you? Why have you contacted us?" The presence shifted, its patterns becoming more complex. "We are the observers. We search for minds that can join the dialogue. Yours have shown potential." "Potential for what?" asked Marcel. "To solve what others cannot. Your species thinks differently. You see patterns others miss. You imagine possibilities others ignore. Now you must be tested." The light intensified, images flooding into their minds, stars being born and dying, civilizations rising and falling across unimaginable distances, a universe teeming with intelligence yet somehow incomplete. "Many have built our device. Few have understood its purpose. Will you accept our challenge? Will humanity face the test?" Ilara looked at her colleagues, seeing her own mixture of fear and determination reflected in their eyes. Humanity had always defined itself by overcoming challenges, by pushing boundaries. Whatever this test might be, refusing it was unthinkable. "We accept," she said, speaking not just for her team but instinctively for her species. "Humanity will take your test." The presence seemed to pulse with something akin to satisfaction. "The trial of human consciousness begins. Prepare your finest minds. You have one planetary rotation before we return." With those words, the energy dissipated, the device powered down, and the 7 scientists were left standing in stunned silence. In 24 hours, humanity would face a test designed by an intelligence that had crossed 47 light years to find them. Whatever the challenge, failure was not an option. Ilara turned to her team, determination hardening her features. "Contact the Security Council. Tell them everything." It's time for humanity to prove what we're capable of. As news spread across Earth, panic mingled with excitement. Humanity had spent its existence testing itself against nature and its own limitations. Now, for the first time, it would be tested by something beyond its world. The question that hung in the minds of billions was simple yet profound. What could these observers possibly want from us? The trial of human consciousness. 24 hours transformed Earth like nothing in recorded history. Governments worldwide declared states of emergency. Schools and businesses closed as people gathered around screens, waiting for news. Military forces stood on high alert, though many questioned what weapons could possibly defend against beings who could transmit thoughts across space. At Horizon Station, now the focal point of humanity's first extraterrestrial encounter, Dr. Ilara Voss had not slept. Neither had the hastily assembled team of Earth's most brilliant minds: mathematicians, physicists, linguists, philosophers, and artists, representing every continent and major culture. They had been shuttled to the moon on emergency transports, breaking all previous spaceflight records. What kind of test could they possibly want us to solve? Asked Dr. Rajan Mehta, a theoretical physicist whose work on quantum consciousness had revolutionized understanding of the observer effect. And more importantly, why us? There must be more advanced civilizations out there. Ilara shook her head, reviewing the limited data they had gathered from the brief encounter. The observers mentioned that we think differently, that we see patterns others miss and imagine possibilities others ignore. Whatever this test is, I suspect it's not about technological advancement. As the appointed hour approached, the station hummed with nervous energy. Earth's finest minds gathered around the device, which had remained dormant since the initial contact. Global leaders watched through secure feeds, having reluctantly acknowledged that scientists, not politicians, would need to leave this encounter. "Device is showing energy fluctuations," announced Kai, who remained at his monitoring station. Similar signature to yesterday's activation, but stronger. The crystalline core began to glow once more, the concentric rings spinning faster than before. This time, the manifestation was immediate, the swirling patterns of light expanding to fill the entire chamber. The mental presence of the observers flooded into every mind present, stronger and more defined than during the first contact. The gathering of minds is acknowledged. The trial begins now. The air in the center of the room shimmered, and a structure appeared, a three-dimensional lattice of light, constantly shifting and rearranging itself according to complex patterns. It resembled nothing in human experience, simultaneously mathematical and organic. This is the Enigma structure. It exists in 23 dimensions, though you perceive only 3. It represents a problem that has remained unsolved across 12 galactic sectors. Those who solve it gain understanding beyond their evolutionary path. Those who fail remain bound to their current trajectory. Ilara stepped forward. What exactly are we meant to do with it? You must determine its purpose, then complete it. The structure seeks equilibrium but cannot achieve it without external intelligence. It is both puzzle and key. The Enigma structure pulsed, sending waves of information washing over the assembled humans. Each person experienced it differently. Mathematicians saw equations of impossible complexity. Physicists observed fundamental forces interacting in ways that contradicted established laws. Artists perceived patterns of harmony and discord beyond any human composition. "It's overwhelming," gasped a quantum computing specialist from Japan. "There are too many variables, too many dimensions we can't access." As humanity's brightest minds began their analysis, the observers remained present but silent, watching. Hours passed as teams formed around different approaches. Traditional scientific methods proved insufficient. The structure seemed to change whenever it was measured or defined. Conventional mathematics failed to model its behavior. "It's responding to consciousness itself," realized Dr. Sophia Reyes after 12 hours of observation. Not just observation, but the quality of attention we give it. Look, when we approach it analytically, it becomes more complex. When we observe with intuition, it stabilizes. This insight shifted their approach. The problem couldn't be solved through computation alone. It required something uniquely human, the integration of rational analysis with intuitive understanding. Teams began to work differently, alternating between rigorous calculation and meditative observation. As Earth completed its rotation, progress remained elusive. The structure continued its transformations, occasionally showing moments of stability before collapsing into greater complexity. Exhaustion set in among the human team, but none would consider resting while humanity's future hung in the balance. Then, in the 33rd hour, Kai Chen, who had been unusually quiet during the entire process, suddenly looked up from his observations. "It's not a puzzle," he said softly, but with such certainty that everyone turned to him. "It's a mind." The young scientist stepped closer to the Enigma structure, his eyes reflecting its shifting light. "We've been treating it as a problem to solve, but it's actually a consciousness trying to form. Look at the patterns. They're not random or even deterministic. They're exploratory." Ilara moved beside him, seeing the structure with fresh eyes. "You're saying it's alive. Not alive as we understand it, but seeking to become something. The 23 dimensions represent potential states of a new form of consciousness. It needs guidance to stabilize, like a child learning to walk." This fundamental shift in perspective rippled through the team. If the Enigma structure was an emerging consciousness, then the approach changed entirely. Instead of solving it, they needed to communicate with it, to guide it toward stability. Dr. Mehta's expertise in quantum consciousness suddenly became central. If Kai is right, then we need to establish resonance with it. Not just observe it, but synchronize with it. For the next several hours, the team worked to establish this resonance. Using modified versions of the quantum communicator that had first connected them to the observers, they created feedback loops that allowed human consciousness to interface more directly with the Enigma structure. As multiple minds connected simultaneously, something remarkable happened. The structure began to stabilize, its patterns becoming more harmonious. It responded to emotional states as much as to logical frameworks, growing more coherent when approached with creativity and empathy rather than pure analysis. "It's working," breathed Ilara as the structure's glow steadied into a pulsing rhythm that somehow felt right to everyone present. "But it's still incomplete. There's something missing." Kai, who had been in deep concentration with his hand hovering near the structure, suddenly understood. It needs a seed, a core framework around which to organize itself. Without hesitation, he placed his palm directly into the center of the light lattice. The connection was immediate and profound. Kai's consciousness flowed into the structure, and for a moment, the young scientist's body went rigid. The Enigma structure flared brilliantly, then stabilized into a perfect geometric form of breathtaking beauty, a multidimensional pattern that somehow seemed both infinitely complex and perfectly simple. Kai stepped back, his eyes wide with wonder. "I saw everything, all possible states existing simultaneously." The observer's presence intensified around them. "The trial is complete." Success was not anticipated. In 12,000 cycles, no species has recognized the Enigma's nature so quickly. Most attempt to solve it through technology or force. None have offered themselves as guides. The implications washed over the human team. This wasn't a test of knowledge or even intelligence as they understood it. It was a test of consciousness itself, of the capacity to recognize and connect with something utterly alien. "Why was this so important to you?" asked Ilara. "What does this success mean for humanity?" The observer's response came not in words but in visions, the vast expanse of the galaxy filled with intelligent species, most technologically advanced beyond human comprehension, yet all following similar evolutionary paths of development. And then, set apart, Earth, a world where consciousness had taken a unique turn. Minds across the galaxy evolve toward efficiency. They excel at solving problems already defined. Humanity excels at redefining problems themselves. You see connections where others see only separation. This capacity is rare and valuable. More images flooded their minds, civilizations rising and falling across eons, knowledge accumulated and lost, the cycle repeating endlessly. And through it all, a search for something different, something that could break patterns that had persisted for millions of years. The universe approaches a threshold. Old patterns of thought cannot cross it. New perspectives are required. Your species thinks differently. You imagine possibilities where others see only what exists. The enigma structure you have stabilized will become a bridge between consciousnesses that have never before communicated. Dr. Marcel Okoro stepped forward. Are you saying humanity's value is creativity, imagination? You possess something more fundamental. You embrace paradox. Your minds hold contradictions without resolution and continue functioning. You accept uncertainty not as failure, but as opportunity. This cognitive flexibility allows breakthroughs impossible for minds seeking only optimization and certainty. The assembled humans exchanged glances, a new understanding dawning. Humanity's greatest strengths were not their technology or their intelligence as conventionally measured, but their cognitive diversity, their tolerance for ambiguity, their ability to make intuitive leaps beyond established patterns. What happens now? Asked Ilara, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. Now, an invitation. Join the dialogue, not as students but as teachers. Help minds who have evolved for billions of years but have reached the limits of their cognitive patterns. In exchange, gain access to knowledge accumulated across 12 galactic sectors. The choice belongs to humanity. The observer's presence began to fade. The enigma structure, now stabilized into its perfect form, remaining suspended in the center of the room. One planetary cycle to decide. We await your answer. As the light dissipated, leaving only the completed structure gently rotating in the air, the humans stood in profound silence. The test had never been about proving humanity's worth to join some galactic community. It had been about finding minds flexible enough to help the community itself evolve. Kai approached Ilara, his expression both exhausted and exhilarated. We didn't just pass their test. We changed it. Ilara nodded slowly, gazing at the beautiful, impossible object they had helped bring into existence. That's what they were looking for all along. Not obedience or even intelligence, but the ability to transform the question itself. As news of the successful encounter spread across Earth, a new understanding began to dawn across humanity. Their place in the cosmos was not determined by their technology or their power, but by the unique way their minds had evolved, embracing contradiction, thriving on creativity, finding meaning in ambiguity. For the first time in history, every nation on Earth would need to make a single decision together. But regardless of that choice, humanity had already discovered something profound about itself. In a universe of ancient intelligences and unimaginable technologies, the human mind still had something unique to offer. They stood now at the threshold of a new era, facing not the end of human history, but perhaps its true beginning. Beyond the stars, minds vastly different from their own awaited not their submission, but their partnership. The signal from beyond had not been a test or a challenge. It had been an invitation to bring humanity's unique perspective to questions the universe had been asking for eons. As Ilara looked out at the stars from Horizon Station's observation deck, she felt not insignificance, but possibility stretching out before her species. Whatever came next, humanity would face it as they always had, with curiosity, creativity, and the courage to imagine what had never existed before.